That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, we have so much changing with the running back position here. So, we are going to go through and we are going to get these rankings updated for week 3. We actually have the rest of season rankings already updated over there on Patreon, but of course, the rest of the season rankings and the weekly rankings are going to be much different based on the matchups for these players. As I stall through this intro real quick, let me pull up our last video so I can randomly grab a comment to give away a Fantasy Flock Network hat. So y'all know every video we are giving away 2 Fantasy Flock Network hats. We're probably going to be giving away like 500 plus through the course of the season. Extremely high quality. I could not be more excited with these hats. I mean, literally just... Let's wear it for the rest of the video. I know we got the suit on. I know we're going to be looking ridiculous, but you know what it is. Let's put on this hat. And Benjamin going to be getting a hat right here who says, I love the math on Ayuk's improvement in week 2. Okay, well, man, you didn't even say anything about a hat, but I don't know if you want one or not. You're getting one. Just send me an email if you want that hat with your address. I can get it to. And then Noah Williams also getting a hat, says, I love the content. I have Saquon in a league and hope he has a good game this week. Okay, Noah, you are getting a hat as well. So every time you go down there, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and leave a comment. You are entered in to get a Fantasy Flock Network hat. And yeah, that should be it. Let's go through and let's get this going. Let's start ranking these running backs. Make sure you drop those likes, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. And you know what? We're taking this off. We can't be looking that ridiculous with this suit and a hat on. But anyway, let's start it off with a running back that you are not going to be surprised to see at the first spot overall. Plays this Thursday night, Christian McCaffrey. Very little to say here. Christian McCaffrey going to be in his own tier for this week. And if you actually pull up on Underdog Fantasy, Thomas, please put it up on the screen. They actually have Christian McCaffrey at 132.5 yards as his over-under right now on Thursday night for Underdog Fantasy. That is the highest over-under on total yards that I have ever seen for a player prop. Now, I almost bet the under until you pull up and see the fact that Christian McCaffrey has crushed that mark the past 2 weeks, and it hasn't even been close. And we know this Houston Texans team is one that we definitely want to be picking on over and over and over again, especially without Tyrod Taylor. They're just not going to be able to put up any kind of fight. Carolina has looked like they had a really good defense as well, so all those Houston players I'm probably going to be trying to avoid. And of course, if you want to go make any of those bets on Underdog Fantasy, make sure you go use promo code FLOCK, make a $10 deposit, and when you make that $10 deposit, you get a max deposit bonus. You get entered in to win multiple Fantasy Flock Network hats every single video at the same time. So yeah, make sure you go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Nothing supports this channel more. You can find the link in the description of the video. Now let's go down to our next tier of running backs. Let's go to Dalvin Cook at number 2. And here with Dalvin Cook, he is going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Now with Seattle, I know this has been a team that is really hard to exactly know what's going to go down in terms of their overall offense, but at least on the defensive side of the ball, I think we can safely say at this point that Seattle, it does not have a defense that we need to be worried about. If anything, I think we can go out of our way and pick on this Seattle Seahawks defense, and they just gave up approximately 2.7 million points to Derrick Henry this past week. I mean, we saw exactly how dominant that Derrick Henry was against Seattle. And yes, Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry are 2 completely different running backs in the way they play the position. But still, Dalvin Cook, that bell cow guy, going to be our running back 2 most weeks anyway. And Seattle is a great matchup for him. Now, at 3, we are going to have Derrick Henry going up against the Indianapolis Colts. And Darrell Henderson, before he got injured, going up against the Colts this past week, actually had a pretty decent game, as well as Chris Carson back in week 1. But more importantly, Derrick Henry comes out and smashes souls, especially my own soul, because I did not draft Derrick Henry in many leagues whatsoever. I was drafting Devontae Adams. I was drafting Travis Kelce instead. And oh my gosh, looks like Derrick Henry, who literally smashed his career high in receptions in a game this past week. And I think that we can come to expect the random Derrick Henry week where he blows up and has almost 200 rushing yards. But the usage in the receiving game is definitely something that we need to point out. And honestly, it may be here to say you're not expecting 6 receptions a game, but if Derrick Henry can bump that number up to 3 receptions a game, Derrick Henry literally has number 1 running back overall upside. It's the craziest thing ever. Maybe we should have taken this into account without Arthur Smith in Tennessee. Maybe they were going to use him a little differently. But yeah, Derrick Henry going to have him at 3, and that's going to be really the top two tiers of running backs. You got CMC, and then down there you got Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. I honestly think no other running backs coming close to those three guys the rest of the season. But now let's go to someone starting off tier 3 that looked fantastic on Monday night. Let's go over to Aaron Jones coming off a 4-touchdown performance. Now he's going up against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers defense gave up approximately 2.7 million points to DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams in week 1. However, Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell really weren't able to get much going against this 49ers defense in week 2. And that's kind of what we said. That's what we warned with that matchup for the overall Philadelphia Eagles offense. And that, yes, the 49ers defense gave up a considerable amount of points to Detroit, but it all happened at the very end of the game where the game was already out of hand. So it wasn't even really like a football game this past week. I mean, that's why we kind of wanted to point out San Francisco and New Orleans as two teams that we really didn't know what to expect. And week 2 was going to tell a lot. And week 2 told us exactly what everybody thought about this 49ers defense coming into the year, that it's a very good defensive unit. Now, with that being said, Aaron Jones looks like any concern that anyone, including myself, may have had about A.J. Dillon getting goal line usage, well, Aaron Jones is just taking all of it. You don't have to worry about it at all. And to nobody's surprise, the Green Bay Packers look like a damn good offense right now. So Aaron Jones is going to lead off as a top 5 running back. And now, rounding out our top 5 running backs, going down to 5, you're going to have Austin Ekeler. And I know this may be a surprise to some people. I'm personally not worried whatsoever about this Kansas City Chiefs matchup. You've seen this Kansas City Chiefs defense so far not necessarily look that good. And I think that shouldn't be a surprise to many people. I mean, we should have maybe expected this, knowing the amount of resources that they've poured into the offensive line this past offseason. Really, that's the number one thing that they addressed. And maybe it's going to be a spot where these Kansas City Chiefs games are just extremely high scoring. And with Austin Ekeler, I mean, yes, he did not come away with a top 3 overall fantasy performance this past week, but it was very encouraging against the Dallas Cowboys, where Ekeler had a ton of usage in the receiving game, which is what we come to expect. He's another week removed from that hamstring injury. So yeah, Austin Ekeler going to be at running back 5. And in the same tier, we're going to have Alvin Kamara down at running back 6. So y'all know there was a decent stretch where we were actually drafting Davante Adams over Alvin Kamara just because we were afraid with all these red flags. I'll still say that, I think it was the right call to have Alvin Kamara at the 103, which is what we did at the end of the season. But anybody who was telling you to draft Alvin Kamara at the 102 and they were ignoring the Jameis Winston concerns, that may have been worse than my Derrick Henry call, to be honest, because I think with New Orleans here, it's just going to be so up and down. And we know that what you've come to expect over the past few years with Alvin Kamara is that stability centered around the target share that he has with Drew Brees. That's no longer here. I think it's going to be really up and down. It's a very tough matchup against the New England Patriots. Hard to have Alvin Kamara much lower than this for a PPR ranking, but if you're playing in a non-PPR league, I think you could honestly drop him a few more spots. Now, at running back 7, we are going to have the best committee running back in the entire NFL, maybe the best committee running back of all time in Nick Chubb. I know people hate to hear that, but at the end of the day, he is in a committee. I promise you, if Kareem Hunt was not there, Nick Chubb would most likely be the running back 2. Just playing behind the best offensive line in football, going up against the Chicago Bears this week. I know the Bears defense just shut down Joe Mixon in this overall Cincinnati Bengals offense. That was more so centered around the turnovers that you had from Joe Burrow. I don't necessarily want to be taking away too much from that game. I'm still standing by the fact that this Chicago Bears defense is not as good as it once was 2 years ago. I think that you are going to be seeing this as a scenario where the Cleveland Browns probably are going to stomp the Chicago Bears this week. So we're going to have Nick Chubb here at running back 7. And then the last running back that we are going to have in this tier as running back 8 is going to be Najee Harris with a great matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I know that David Montgomery just failed against the Bengals, but that's David Montgomery. This is Najee Harris. Najee Harris getting all of the usage in the receiving game out of this backfield to go along with it. He is playing almost 100% of the snaps so far in 2021. So the workload standpoint is just going to be there. The problem is with Najee Harris, kind of what we were talking about coming into the season. He's running behind one of, if not the worst offensive lines in the entire NFL. We have concerns about the overall offense, but Harris himself, I don't think you have to worry about, especially not the matchup going up against Cincinnati. Now, yes, we are going to have this next running back as a top 10 running back. We've had him as a low-end running back 2, at least we did last week. But now this is the time to have him in the top 10. We are just going all in on Saquon Barkley this week. I mean, if Barkley disappoints against the Atlanta Falcons, I am probably going to have to crawl under a rock and hide until the rest of the football season, because I want everybody to be trading for Barkley. I want everybody to be setting their lineups, putting Barkley in there at their running back 1 spot as a sign of respect at the very least. I mean, Barkley, of course, was going to fail through the first 2 weeks of the year. We knew that he was going to be on a snap count. And more importantly, going into week 2, I mean, this is someone that was going up against one of the toughest defenses in football off of 4 days of rest. Now he has 10 days of rest going into week 3 to go along with this, going up against the Atlanta Falcons defense. This is a smash spot for Saquon Barkley. So he is going to be leading off tier number 4 for us. And now our next running back in tier number 4 is going to be possibly another committee running back, with Ezekiel Elliott going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles, I know they look like they've had a good defense through the first 2 weeks. I think they're probably going to crumble against this Dallas Cowboys offense. And I know that Tony Pollard looked fantastic this past week. And Tony Pollard, you have to have him on your fantasy team. I would be surprised, though, if we see the same level of usage for Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott in back-to-back weeks. I'm thinking this is possibly a small bounce-back spot for Ezekiel Elliott. But there is one thing that could move him down 1 slot, and that's our next running back here with Jonathan Taylor. So to be completely transparent, I am recording this on, I believe today is Tuesday morning, the 21st. So this is going to be Tuesday morning. So as of now, we don't really have official reports on what we should expect with Carson Wentz this week. Jonathan Taylor is going up against the Tennessee Titans, a great matchup. And I will say, if Carson Wentz is playing, I'm going to be excited to go through and move Jonathan Taylor up a few spots in these rankings. But the problem is, if Carson Wentz misses this game, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of Carson Wentz, but Jacob Eason is straight up a bad NFL quarterback. Nobody's going to argue against that. So that would lower the overall expectations with Jonathan Taylor. So right here, we'll get to another running back near the end of this video that's a very similar situation. It's going to be kind of meeting in the middle, where if Carson Wentz misses this game, you have to drop Jonathan Taylor down further than this. But if Carson Wentz plays, you have to raise Jonathan Taylor up probably to the top of this tier. But for now, we're going to have him at running back 11. Now let's bring it down one more tier. Let's go down to, I believe, whatever tier this is, and let's lead it off with Chris Carson as our number 12th running back going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Love this Vikings matchup, as this is a defense that led up a ton of points to Joe Mixon in week 1. And this past week, they just let Kyler Murray in this overall offense just steam right through them. I think we should expect the same thing with the Seattle Seahawks, who have looked fantastic through the first 2 weeks. I know they lose to Tennessee this past week, but that was just a very random game where Derrick Henry just had a Derrick Henry level performance. I think against Minnesota, this will be a strong spot for one of the better offenses in the NFL and their lead running back in Chris Carson, as it looks like really they have nobody else in that backfield for the moment to take any touches away from him. And now going over to our running back 13, it's going to be a very tough matchup. Love the running back, loved him in drafts, but DeAndre Swift at running back 13 going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the problem is with this matchup, you've seen Baltimore be pretty decent against opposing teams' running backs so far. Clyde Edwards-Helaire limited to literally nothing this past week. I mean, he didn't even get any usage in the receiving game. And going back 2 weeks ago, I know if you look at the final stat line for Josh Jacobs, I mean, the fantasy points are going to be nice. That was more so just because he got the goal line rushes. He came away with 2 rushing touchdowns. From an efficiency standpoint, I mean, the Raiders had a very hard time getting the run game going in week 1 against this tough Baltimore Ravens defense. So I think you're going to see something very similar here against the Detroit Lions. So DeAndre Swift, he's more so matchup proof a little bit because he can catch the ball out of the backfield, but we are going to have him here at running back 13. Now, our running back 14, a running back that I told you all to sell high after week 1 against a very good performance against the Los Angeles Rams. I think this will be a spot that, I mean, very neutral on him, but David Montgomery at running back 14, I think you're fine to have him as a high-end running back 2, low-end running back 1. And here with David Montgomery, just the problem is, A, the offense in Chicago, B, the fact that Damian Williams is getting usage, and C, I do not like this matchup whatsoever for this Chicago Bears team going up against Cleveland. I think that Cleveland does have one of the better defenses in the NFL at the moment. So yeah, we are going to have David Montgomery at 14. Now, running back 15, we will have Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, our guy. Y'all know how excited we were about Joe Mixon coming into the season based on the workload that he will have without Giovanni Bernard in this offense. And it's sad to see this past week the entire Cincinnati Bengals team just crumbling in the face of 3 Joe Burrow interceptions. And sad news is, we should maybe expect something very similar this week because you do have a tough matchup going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Joe Mixon, you have to lower him down the rankings. You have to expect a pretty down week yet again because, this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is most likely going to create a ton of pressure with Joe Burrow behind a pretty bad offensive line. That's going to create a game flow where I'd imagine that the Cincinnati Bengals can't run the ball over and over again. And now let's go down one more tier. Let's keep it going down. And our next guy, just like Jonathan Taylor, he's either going to go up or down from here. Let's go Josh Jacobs. So Josh Jacobs, at the time of this recording, we don't know the situation with his health. Of course, I'm going to be live streaming every single night, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Come out to those live streams, and we can be giving updates to these rankings. But Josh Jacobs, great matchup against the Miami Dolphins. Here, you just had the Miami Dolphins giving up 3 rushing touchdowns to Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and Zach Moss yet again. So I think we are wanting to play a running back that we know is going to get an insane amount of usage in the red zone in Josh Jacobs. I'm not fully into buying into the fact that this Las Vegas Raiders offense is as good as it looks. I think that maybe it's just a little bit of a small sample thing, and we should see the Raiders be somewhat between 2020 and 2021 Las Vegas. They're not going to be this way the entire season, but of course, it's been exciting to see nonetheless. And you've had Damian Harris crushing the Miami Dolphins in week 1. Now, you had the Buffalo running backs crushing Miami in week 2. No reason to expect that you get something different out of Josh Jacobs here if he's healthy. So if Jacobs is healthy, he's going to be someone that I really want in my starting lineup. Now our next guy will be a faller down the rankings. It's a very tough matchup for him. Antonio Gibson going up against Buffalo. This is a tough matchup. We really don't like to see that J.D. McKissic is getting all the usage in the receiving game over the past few weeks. Obviously, Antonio Gibson's still drawing targets when he's in there in first and second down, but the problem is he's just simply never in there in the 2-minute drill. He's never in there in obvious passing down situations. I still want to stand by the fact that if this coaching staff decided to use Antonio Gibson as that bell cow, that he would be able to take control of that job, and he still has that elite level ceiling. But until we see that usage there, we have to just hamper our expectations a little bit, just given the fact that you're looking at a committee running back here with Antonio Gibson in one of the worst offenses in the NFL, and this is a very tough matchup going up against Buffalo. Now, our next running back, someone that I honestly thought was an intriguing buy low candidate, given the fact that a lot of people were off of him in week 1, and now even more people are off of him in week 2, but it's so hard to say to buy him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And here with CEH, still at the end of the day, he is the lead running back in the best offense in football. Now, what pisses me off is Darrell Williams coming away with that rushing touchdown this past week. Williams getting the usage at the goal line. If that was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, then nobody's really complaining about Clyde Edwards-Helaire's performance on Sunday night. But if he's not getting utilized in the receiving game like he once was, if for whatever reason, all of a sudden, they're using other running backs at the goal line, this is a spot where we have to just lower down Clyde Edwards-Helaire in considerable amount. You know that everybody and their mom has been screaming that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is an overrated player for about 3 weeks now, and I've been saying that, well, go try trading Clyde Edwards-Helaire in any of your leagues. Nobody's giving you anything for him. His value is already rock bottom. You can't trade away Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but of course there are reasons to be pretty bearish on him. Now, at running back 19, let's go over to Miles Sanders going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, with Miles Sanders, I am extremely surprised to see the exact usage that Kenneth Gainwell has in this offense. Maybe this is something we should have paid a little more attention to, given the fact that it was a new coaching staff. Just looking at the team investment, I think that it was probably a pretty bad bet to automatically be assuming that you were going to end up having him come in and see Kenneth Gainwell's workload exactly like this. But at the end of the day, Miles Sanders does have a good matchup. This is a great defense to attack in Dallas. I think Miles Sanders is a very talented running back, so we have to keep him down here at running back 19 due to the Kenneth Gainwell touches, but trust me, I wish we could have him higher than this. Now our next running back is going to be a running back 20 in a tough matchup. Let's go with Damian Harris against the New Orleans Saints. So with Damian Harris, I think that he will most likely be playing in a game that you're going to see New England and Bill Belichick just completely take Jameis Winston out of his element here. Jameis Winston against Bill Belichick, this is a recipe for disaster after this defense just was able to go through and take away 4 interceptions from Zach Wilson. So if you see this game get out of hand like that, then maybe Damian Harris does have a slightly better matchup than I want to give him credit for. But with Damian Harris here, I mean, he's still not getting a ton of usage in the receiving game. Let's have him at running back 20. I don't love the idea of attacking this New Orleans Saints defense. Keep in mind, this is a defense that completely shut down Green Bay not that long ago. Now let's go one tier down. It's going to be the last tier we talk about, but we'll talk about some honorable mentions at the very end. And here, Mike Davis leading us off at running back 21. Now, Mike Davis has a great matchup against the New York Giants. Maybe I'm being a little biased here, and y'all know that I really didn't like Mike Davis coming into the season based on a multitude of things, mainly given the fact that I just don't think he's a talented running back. I mean, you're looking at the history of Mike Davis, and there's nothing really here outside of a small sample in 2020 that should get you excited about Davis. And now, after so many people have gone, well, Mason, it doesn't matter his talent. I mean, he is the only running back there that can get touches. How about Cordell Patterson? Cordell Patterson coming out, getting some usage in the red zone. And I think given the size for Cordell Patterson, maybe it shouldn't be that surprising that he is getting usage in the red zone. So definitely want to be just avoiding going all in on Mike Davis where we can any given week. I think we would rather try to find someone else, and that would be one of them right now. And now going to running back 22, let's talk about Myles Gaskin here. And with Myles Gaskin, another running back, I didn't think that was that talented that we were looking to avoid in drafts. And yes, he is indeed in a committee right now going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas, yes, they just did give up a decent amount of points to Najee Harris based on a touchdown that he got in the red zone receiving the ball. But, I mean, I hate to break it to anybody, Myles Gaskin is not Najee Harris, so don't want to be projecting that right over. Now, our next running back at running back 23 will be Chase Edmonds. With Chase Edmonds here, great matchup against Jacksonville. Now, I will say that while you should expect this Arizona Cardinals team to put up a significant amount of points, it's not like Chase Edmonds is their bruiser running back. That's more so James Conner. You like Chase Edmonds because of his usage in the receiving game, not really expecting him to have any role at the goal line. So I'll say with Chase Edmonds, maybe you want him playing in slightly more competitive games than what's going to be in Jacksonville, because this is going to be a blowout. Now, our last running back is the starting running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars in James Robinson. And here going up against Arizona. I mean, I was actually impressed with what we had from James Robinson this past week, and that he did prove that he is going to be the feature down running back here. So what we initially thought before panicking after seeing the Carlos Hyde usage in week 1. However, this team looks like they're going to be very bad, and we definitely want to be going through and trying to avoid them where we can. So let's go to some honorable mentions that we'll probably be talking about a little bit more later on in the week. Let's talk about Tyson Williams. Tyson Williams, great matchup against Detroit. I know a lot of people are going to be in the comment section asking me, Mason, what about Tyson Williams? Mason, what about Tyson Williams? Yes, a great matchup against Detroit, but I really think that they're going to continue to expand the role of both Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman in this offense. We have to remember that Tyson Williams was a player that I was saying to start over the past 2 weeks based on the fact that he was really the only guy there, and you were just kind of looking at him saying, well, this is someone that if he's the only guy there and the only guy comfortable with the offense, he has to be the lead running back. But now that Latavius Murray has been there for about 3 weeks, I think you are going to see Latavius Murray getting an expanded role, and I think you're going to see it a little bit more running back by committee. So Tyson Williams, I don't know if we can have him in the top 24. Javonte Williams, a committee running back right now that is taking over. Javonte Williams, I honestly hate myself for not including him in our buy low running back list. I hate myself for it. Javonte Williams, I could easily understand starting him against the New York Jets. And then I guess we could throw in the 49ers running back situation here just to say, let's monitor the situation throughout the week. Let's see who ends up being healthy, because if there's only one healthy running back there, maybe you can find some value. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. Of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment to get entered in to a chance to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. And subscribe to the channel. We are live streaming every single night, so hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That should be it. I hope to see y'all with the video tomorrow.